Story 1. AITA for threatening to stop visiting. If my dad keeps trying to make me be around as a fair kid. I'm an 18 years old guy. Over a year ago, my parents split after my dad got caught cheating with a lady that lives couple blocks from us. Mom found out it's been going on since before I was born. The lady's husband was told by Mom. He wanted to test to find out if his son was his, and surprise, it was my dad's. The whole thing was some Maury crap. I swear, my dad and I don't get along anyways, so him moving out wasn't a big deal. Was still mad at him for hurting my mom now. She's on antidepressants and trying hard to keep it together for me. Only see my dad every other weekend since I'd rather stay with my mom after we moved out of that neighborhood. So the thing about this is, I already know who this stupid guy is because we've literally hated each other since middle school. He was one of those that liked to pants everyone in pee. And I might just say, when he tried to do it to me, the outcome was we both got sent to the deans and were suspended, even though he started it. We hated each other since. He's really gross and acts like an a-hole to everyone except his friends. I mean, spitting in people's foods, taking stuff out of people's backpacks in class and hiding them, being loud and annoying as hell in class. He doesn't try it with me though because he knows I don't hold back. Funny thing is, my dad always said I should try to get along with him cause we're neighbors, and his parents knew mine. Guess now we all know why he did that. I don't know what happened with his family because we moved, but I know he's spending time with my dad now, and my dad has asked me to come with them when they do something. Thank God freaking school's online, so I never actually had to see him when it all came out. But my dad gave him my number, and he's texted me. He was saying we should hang out, and didn't know we were brothers, or he wouldn't have been that way with me. I told him hell no. Just because we're suddenly biologically related, doesn't mean I want to be around him, even if he wouldn't be treating me bad anymore. He'd still be a jerk to other people. My dad's pushing it now to bond with him, and brings it up every time I see him. Twice he's actually invited him over when I go visit without telling me. The second time was over a week ago, and I left his house. It pissed me off, so I reminded my dad I don't even got to see him anymore since I'm 18, so if he pulls this stuff again or brings it up, I'm not visiting anymore. My dad got all mad because he's trying to get his 2 kids to bond, and my aunt, his sis, says the same. She knows everything that happened, and she says it's very mean to threaten him with something like that when he's trying his best for me to have a relationship with my brother. I don't plan on having anything to do with the guy. I hated him even before all this, so that's not going to change, but do wonder if threatening my dad with not visiting, if he kept doing that, was being the a-hole. Now for the top comments, it doesn't sound like you are holding your dad's affair against this kid. You are holding the dude's personality and behavior against him. That's how the world works. You are also an adult who did not grow up with this person, so they are not family to you. As for your dad, visits from adult children are a privilege, not a right. And if he wants that privilege, he needs to respect your boundaries, not the a-hole. If it was some random from school, I wouldn't care then. I would have preferred if it was anyone but this guy, and you have every right to feel that way. To be real, this dude is an actual harasser. Passing people is not funny or appropriate, and in 2021, there is no excuse for acting like it is. Not the a-hole. Biology doesn't make a family. Not the a-hole. You're an adult, and you can decide who you want to be around. If your dad doesn't respect that, you don't have to be around your dad or feel guilty about it. Not the a-hole. Your dad is a selfish piece of work. He doesn't seem to care about anyone's feelings but his own. Not the a-hole. You not liking your half-brother has very little to do with it. Your dad torched your family and your stability by lying for almost 2 decades and being unfaithful to your mom. As one of the wronged parties, you were allowed to have boundaries in your relationship that forced the party that did the wronging, your dad, to make amends. It's not bad at all that one of those boundaries is to not have his love child around while you all are together, particularly because you already know this kid better than your dad does, and you don't like him on top of that. Not your pig, not your farm. If your dad wants to salvage a relationship with you, then he should meet your very reasonable demand and understand that healing will take time. Your new half-brother doesn't have to be a concern of yours. Story 2. AITA for not paying my brother's medical bills and telling my mother she's letting her other son down. A little context. I, 32 mil, have 2 siblings, Jackie, 29 female, and Andy, 23 mil. I wasn't raised by my biological mother because she didn't want to raise me, but Jackie and Andy were. Andy still lives with my mother. About a month ago, Andy got very sick and had to stay in the hospital for 2 weeks. When he got discharged, Jackie and I stayed with my mother to help her care for Andy. He basically can't do anything for himself until he heals up properly. Eventually, I have to return home, and so does Jackie. We both live very far from my mother's, and our jobs are also far, so we can't really stay at our mother's full time. Andy is also high risk right now, so with the whole COVID thing, neither of us can take him back to our places. Before leaving, I went over all of Andy's care instructions with my mother. Just before I leave, we also start talking about Andy's medical bills. We don't have insurance, so everything is out of pocket. My mother wants me to pay the bill, even though she has more than enough money to pay it. She has a business that didn't slow down during the pandemic, and I helped her with her finances recently, so I know she's loaded. Meanwhile, mine and Jackie's jobs just started back up, and the fact that Jackie has 2 kids and I have 3 dogs, and you can see how we aren't in the best position to be paying medical bills. But she wouldn't budge, so I left and agreed to pay the bills. A few days later, I go to see how Andy's doing, and I was really shocked to find that he hadn't been taken care of like at all. My mother didn't follow any of the very important care instructions I left. I confronted her, and she told me she didn't do any of that stuff because it grosses her out. I became furious and started yelling and calling her a bad mother, among other things. I told her if she wasn't at least going to take care of him, then I wasn't going to pay the damn bill. The least she could do was hire a nurse if she really didn't want to do it. She told me that she couldn't pay the bill or hire a nurse because she was saving up for retirement. I asked her how she could value her retirement above her own son, and she said that it wasn't easy to see her son so sick, and I didn't understand because I wasn't a parent. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I told her that she already let me down, and now she's doing it again with Andy. She got real quiet and left the room. When I went to take care of Andy, I could hear her sobbing in her bedroom. I think I really hurt her feelings with all the things I said. Before I left, Andy begged me to keep coming back, because if I didn't, my mother would just let him rot. He actually said those words to me. She still doesn't want to pay the bill or hire a nurse. I love my brother, and I'm going to keep taking care of him, but I just don't think it's fair that all this burden falls on me when my mother is more than capable of helping. AITA, 100% not the a-hole. To be honest, I'd threatened to report her for medical neglect. Start documenting, write down dates, get photographs. If she doesn't get her stuff together, you can sue her and win, and you'll be able to pay for your brother's care. Best of luck, Op. You're a good brother. I agree. Op's mother seems wealthy, however she refused to pay the medical bills and barely looks after her own sick son. She is the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I'm going to be blunt. Who cares about your mother's feelings when your brother is literally being neglected, and in his own words left to rot? I don't know where you are at, but perhaps FMLA would be an option. My desire to become a nurse came from taking care of my sick daughter. If anyone told me 12 years ago I'd be giving shots, wiping butts, cleaning puke, changing adult briefs, I would have said go fly a kite. This mom is in a hole and Op is definitely not the a-hole. Your mother apparently is not capable of helping or caring. Do what you need to take care of your brother, and limit whatever contact you have with that creature that birthed you. She'll pop up again when her financial situation dwindles, as all she cares about is money. Not the whole. Oh, she's capable, she just doesn't care enough to make it happen. Story 3. AITA for refusing to help my sister. My sister got married in July. She and her husband were dating a little over a year, and both were single parents. My sister has my 2 nieces who are 11 and 9. He has a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. The girls have not been enthusiastic about the changes, and they do not like their step-siblings, which I get for more reasons than one. But my sister wants to believe she can change that. So, she suggested we get her 6-year-old stepson and my 6-year-old son together to play, and maybe it can be a bonding experience since my nieces are close to my boys. I said no for one very important reason. Her stepson has bullied my son. Back when they were actually going to school before COVID, they were both in kinder, and her stepson was really mean to my son. My sister knew this when she got with her husband too. The issue wasn't the biggest at first because they're so little. I still got in touch with the teacher about it, but then it escalated to him spitting on my son's hand, and another time he tossed his lunch on the floor. Then while my sister was dating her husband during a Zoom class, he told everyone over Zoom that my son crapped his pants at their house, and that he smells like crap the whole time now. My brother-in-law was there, and he said nothing, so I do not care that they are all technically cousins now. I won't expose my son to him more than he must be in the school, but since they're not in school or in the same class anymore, it's not an issue right now. I won't let my son be mistreated or be around the kid who triggered his night terrors again. My sister said I'm being unfair to her, to my nieces, and to a 6-year-old. She said we need to find a way to move on as a family, and I could help her make her family united. She tried to rope our parents into it, but they said I was right because they have seen how her stepson treats my son. But our aunt says I don't get how hard blending families is, and I should be doing more. AITA. Now for the top comments. Not the whole. You're not required to sacrifice your son to a bully and push him to pretend he likes the treatment because family. It would be one thing if this impulse her stepson has was being corrected, but you basically know your child is going to be mistreated and the behavior tolerated by your sister's husband and her sister. Has sister or her husband ever addressed, apologized for, or attempted to correct the bullying behavior? I am guessing no. So bluntly tell her she needs to make sure the stepson is well behaved, respectful and kind, before there will be any playdates. Repeat this with any relatives who criticize you. You know X bullied my son, don't you? So why do you think this is a good idea for my child? Your poor nieces. Not the whole news to me that cousins fall under the blending umbrella. Literally not a thing, sis. Nope. Your sister is concerned about you making this easier for her. Not your problem. Blow her off and don't get caught up in her attempts to dramatize. Her strategy doesn't even make sense to me. When my family was getting blended up, adding cousins to the mix would have done squat. But with a history of bullying your son, it's going to do less than squat. Don't feel guilty, op. This is your sister's new family. Don't make it the extended family's problem right now. Not the whole. You're protecting your child and your sister's feelings in that matter, which seem to be motivated solely by selfishness, rather than concern for your son, are irrelevant. And she wasn't the whole for asking to get them together, but she certainly is for pushing and attempting to use your parents' slash and to push her agenda. That's pure manipulation, and you shouldn't be swayed by it. Not the whole, you are protecting your child and are continuing to do so. Since you can't keep them apart forever, I'd recommend teaching your son to deal with bullies, and that just because they're related now. Stepson is still a bully and your son does not need to tolerate that. I imagine if your son decided to fight back, your sister and her husband would be up in arms. As someone who was bullied up until middle school, the worst part is for years, I didn't know I was being bullied. I felt that the mean kids were just lonely, and if you were nice to them, they'd eventually stop. It wasn't until middle school that I snapped back at one of the girls who made fun of me in the locker room. A kindergartner is young enough that if adults or another child tell him that's just how cousin X is, or they're having a hard time, be nice. I don't want to project onto your situation, but I think it's great that you're keeping them separated and validating your child's experience. Story 4. AITA for walking out of my mum's house when they arranged a family get-together for my late son's birthday. My life has felt like it's been falling apart for a while now. I just lost my son a year ago at the age of 9, and I've been a mess ever since. I had already lost my wife when she gave birth, and he was all I had left of her. It was only 5 months ago that I started leaving the house again, engaging with my family, going to therapy. I also recently joined a support group for grieving parents. My mental health is far from perfect, but it's improving little by little. I'm able to talk about my son without falling apart, but a week ago, I knew his birthday was coming up. The first one since I lost my boy. My sister called me and said it would be nice if we did something special for him to honor his memory. I said she was free to do something if she'd like, but I don't have the heart in me to celebrate that day. It was just going to be too much and decided I'd rather not do anything. I preferred to not see anyone and be at home where I can cry my heart out in private. My sister went ahead and organized something because on that day I received a call from my mom asking to come help move some boxes. She and my dad are cleaning out their attic, so I thought maybe she wanted to distract me that day by having me do some physical work. Instead, I found my sister with her family, my parents, 5 other aunts and uncles, and several cousins all there. Photos of my son around the living room with candles and his favorite dishes prepared. Just the smell of his favorite foods was too overwhelming for me, and all I remember was walking right out with my mom and sister calling after me. They stopped me at my car. My sister kept urging me to go inside and be with everyone because we're all grieving. I know I shouldn't have, but I snapped at both of them for setting me up for something I said no to already. My sister had hoped I'd change my mind when I got there and saw the whole family. Both tried to get me to go back in the house, but I drove off. When I got home, I had several missed calls from my family. They were all upset I didn't stick around, especially my sister who wanted this to be something special to honor my son's memory. My mom said she understood I am still grieving, but that does not excuse me from walking off the way that I did and snapping at my sister. The way I reacted made the whole thing uncomfortable, and the energy wasn't good after that. So, my sister is unhappy the birthday get-together for my son didn't go as planned, and my mom thinks I should have handled it better. So yes, at the moment, I am having a hard time seeing if what I did was truly wrong. I know my family loves me, and sometimes they want to help, but I had made it clear already I wanted no involvement. My emotions get the best of me sometimes, so I'd like to know if in this case I was an asshole for my reaction. I'm so sorry. No, you're not the a-hole. You're grieving. You all are. Take care of yourself. Not be a hole. I'm so sorry for your loss. Your family are being selfish, thoughtless and pushy by trying to steamroll you into performing your grief in a way that they like/prefer. You grieve how you need to. It sounds like the therapy and support groups are helping. Unfortunately, the family's good intentions turned out to be potentially harmful. While the original poster is not even remotely at fault here, it's obviously a difficult time for the entire family. Everyone grieves in their own way, and it's important for everyone to show mutual respect and understanding towards each other, as difficult as it may be. Hopefully this event will not cause a permanent tear in the cohesiveness of the family, as it's clear they do all care for each other. Edit. I actually just found a comment which somewhat mirror this idea, but totally missed the importance of individual grief. Now I'm wondering whether this is one of Op's family members lol, not the a-hole. They tried to force you to confront grief in a very unhealthy way. Work with a grief counselor and realize that you will process your grief in your own time. Ritual can be a very healthy way to confront grief, so their celebration of his birthday is not, in and of itself, unhealthy. It may work well for them. It just doesn't mean that they should have tried to force Up to share that method of grieving and trick him into it when he made it clear he didn't want it. Definitely not the whole Up. Very sorry for your loss. Not the whole. You told your sister no. She did not listen. You are not in the wrong here.